My pops was still, bumping his head too, but at the same time, he always had so much of a love for me. He give me the wisdom in the game to say, you know what, I did that, don't do that. Sometimes he could stop it, sometimes he couldn't, because I still had my friends surrounding me in the community, and each block in Compton is a gang.
This is Little L, who's one of Kendrick Lamar's best friends, who he grew up with, who's also a Piru gang member, is otherwise known as the Bloods.
Hey, you want to know a crazy thing about Kendrick, bro? My first encounter with him, he thought I was somebody else, bro. He low-key tried to press me.
Who?
Kendrick Lamar. I guess he just jumped him back in the day. And I came to the studio, and he was mad. He was like, hey, you from Almond Block? And I was like, nah, but he was hot.
The phrase good kid in a mad city is often used to describe Kendrick.
The phrase good kid in a mad city makes Kendrick sound like he was some saint in chaos, calm, untouched, above it all. But that's not the whole picture.
They didn't really understand the story all the way. As far as I put out there, I'm just the good kid in the mad city. You know what I mean? I put out the positive out there, but they don't know the negatives I had to go through yet.
Just like every other kid in Compton, he had his homies. And yeah, he got caught up in some reckless things too. This idea that you had to be officially jumped into a gang before facing danger, straight up false. Violence and chaos didn't wait for you to pick a side. It was already there. Even if Kendrick never threw up a set or repped a flag, he was still neck deep in it. Remember, he grew up right in the middle of Piru territory, a neighborhood soaked in gang life. His dad only moved the family there after Kendrick's mom gave him an ultimatum. A decision that changed everything. Kendrick's dad thought Compton would be a fresh start, leave the streets behind or lose everything. But instead of safety, they landed in a city where danger was everywhere, no matter how much his parents tried to shield him.
It's a Compton thing. Johnny says it's a gangster Compton thing. Oh, no. Oh, kid, put that up, kid.
Death and trauma weren't rare. They were daily life. Kendrick's first taste came at just 5 years old. Right outside his apartment, he saw a teenage dealer get dropped. A car rolled up slow. One shotgun blast to the chest, gone instantly. Kendrick watched it all. Years later, he told NPR that moment flipped a switch. It's done something to me right then and there. It let me know this wasn't just something I'm looking at, but something I might have to get used to. And it didn't stop there. At only 8, walking home from McNair Elementary, he saw another murder at Tam's Burgers. Broad daylight, man shot dead in the drive-thru. After that, he admitted the violence just numbed him. Bodies dropping became background noise in his world. By his teenage years, Kendrick wasn't just watching the streets. He was feeling the pull himself. His pop saw it too. He noticed the homies Kendrick was running with, the direction he was leaning, and had to sit him down for a real talk. Kendrick remembers his dad telling him straight up, "I don't want you to be like me." Back then, Kendrick didn't fully get it. But looking back, it's clear his dad was a street dude who knew the game, knew the price, and didn't want his son trapped in that same cycle. He shared his mistakes, tried to steer Kendrick clear, but it wasn't that easy.
My pops wasn't as righteous. My pops was still, bumping his head too, but at the same time, he always had so much of a love for me. He gave me the wisdom in the game to say, you know what, I did that, don't do that.
The streets had a gravity all their own. No matter how much love or wisdom his father gave him, Kendrick admitted the hardest part was this: his pops couldn't protect him from the influence of his friends. Kendrick's friends weren't just background characters, they were family. A crew of kids surviving the same war zone, running the same blocks, carrying the same scars.
Sometimes he could stop it, sometimes he couldn't, because I still had my friends surrounding me in the community, and each block in Compton is a gang.
Their stories are stitched into his, and none stand out more than Little L, the definition of pain, loyalty, and redemption. If you've seen the Noisy Bompton documentary, you already know his story. Raw, unpolished, and straight out of Compton's cycle. L was Westside Pirus, one of Kendrick's day one homies from elementary school.
This is Little L, who's one of Kendrick Lamar's best friends, who he grew up with, who's also a Piru gang member, is otherwise known as the Blood.
But like so many kids in the neighborhood, his life was heavy with circumstances he never asked for. He grew up watching his mom wrestle with crack addiction, a poison that tore families apart in the 80s and 90s. In and out of jail, stuck in a loop designed to trap young men in Compton, while others his age built careers, L was just fighting to stay free. But here's the shift. Kendrick never saw success as his alone. He carried his people with him, always believing escape only mattered if you reached back and pulled somebody else out. For Little L, that meant everything. That loyalty turned into a lifeline. When Little L came home from prison in 2019, Kendrick didn't just toss him cash or shout him out in a verse. He gave him something real. L started working with PG Lang, Kendrick's company, and Kendrick even put him through school, grooming him for an executive role waiting on the other side. From gang culture to a suit in a creative empire. That's a wild transformation. But it hasn't been easy. L admitted the hardest part is unlearning survival habits from the streets. I gotta stay 100% focused. I gotta double down on a lot of ish I do every day, he said. Still, since coming home, he's stacked milestones most people from his block never see. Got his passport, toured with Kendrick, and even launched his own music group, The Bad Fellas. Little L became living proof of Kendrick's philosophy. You don't just escape the hood, you bring your people with you.
Kendrick and Dave be on my about going to the hood, and it's like, you know, they don't want to in jail, so I understand what they saying. I be in 5-star hotels with them, like, you know, going to the studios with them out of town.
And then there's the Keaton brothers, Chad and Jason. Their story hits a different nerve. Chad, the youngest of the crew at just 23, was doing everything right. No gang ties, no criminal record. But life in Compton doesn't always play fair. To Kendrick and his crew, Chad Keaton was hope, proof that not everyone had to walk the same rough path. But his older brother Jason wasn't so lucky. Locked up, serving time. Before going in, Jason asked Kendrick for one heavy favor. Watch over my little brother. A promise made with love, not realizing how impossible it might be to keep. On July 12, 2013, that promise shattered. Chad was walking near Comstock Street and Parmley Avenue when a white sedan pulled up. Shots fired. He went down but didn't die right away. He fought for 31 days in a hospital bed, clinging to life, while Kendrick was across the world on the Yeezus tour. The only connection? Video calls. That distance, being gone when Chad needed him, haunted Kendrick forever. On August 14th, 2013, Chad passed away. Investigators called it wrong place, wrong time, but for Kendrick it was deeper. Survivor's guilt crushed him, and he bled it all into To Pimp a Butterfly. The track You is basically Kendrick screaming at himself, furious over leaving Compton, leaving his people, and breaking Jason's trust. God himself will say you failed, he raps. While Kendrick poured his grief into the mic, Jason sat behind bars, mourning his little brother with no way to let it out. Behind bars, Jason Keaton turned his pain into words, finishing 2 books during his sentence. His voice had already shown up in Kendrick's work before. On the Kendrick Lamar EP, there's a track called Uncle Bobby and Jason Keaton where Kendrick literally reads one of Jason's prison letters. Cold cells, no mail, weeks turning into months, Kendrick gave his homies Reality a platform. Years later, he even kept Jason's name alive on Saturday Night Live, shouting out his prison writing so the story wouldn't fade.
Chad was a really hard one for Kendrick. It was really hard for him because Chad was like younger than us, you know, like a little bro.
And then there was G-Weed. Every hood has those figures. Legends respected not just for muscle, but for brains and presence. For Kendrick, that was G-Weed, a Campanella Park, Peru OG with reach far beyond Compton. While locals hustled on the block, he was plugged into the Black Mafia family, BMF, the infamous crew that had Atlanta on lock in the early 2000s. That connection gave him rare power, a man rooted in the streets, but with one foot in the music industry. He became a bridge between Compton's grind and Top Dog Entertainment, TDE, the label that would launch Kendrick into superstardom. G-Weed could vouch for you in the hood and get you in the right industry room, but the streets never really let go. In May 2017, while in Atlanta, G-Weed was shot in the head. Many say his past finally caught up with him. Miraculously, G-Weed survived the shooting. A month in the hospital, then back to California. But if the bullets didn't stop him, the feds did. Just weeks later, in June 2017, he was indicted for meth distribution in Columbia, Missouri. The case stuck, and by March 2019, he was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison. He's still serving that time today. But not every story in Kendrick's circle ends in tragedy. If G-Weed showed the weight of the streets, Dave Free is proof of what happens when vision and timing collide. Born David Friley, he met Kendrick back in 10th grade at Centennial High, right in the middle of blood territory. Known around school as DJ, he was always experimenting with beats. One day, he caught Kendrick freestyling at lunch, and a spark lit instantly.
Me and Kendrick go back, man, since the beginning of 10th grade. I was like the local DJ at my school, and I used to have these rap battles during like lunch. And I remember he had this line, he was like, I ship keys like a piano, like a grand piano or something like that. And I just thought that was the most amazing line for somebody his age.
Dave threw together a bedroom studio, Mike covered with a sock to kill the static, and the two started recording. That garage setup was the seed of a multi-million-dollar career.
We had the little sock over the microphone. Did a bunch of freestyles over that little mic. Gave it to his brother that was producing at the time. Built some more than just, people working together. Built a friendship, built a brotherhood over the years. And that's been about 8 years, almost a decade.
But Dave wasn't just a homie with equipment. He had vision. While working as a computer tech, he slipped one of Kendrick's mixtapes to Anthony Top Dog Tiffith, founder of TDE. That single move changed everything. Kendrick got his deal, Dave joined the team, and climbed fast, from engineer to co-president of TDE. But his biggest impact was creative. With Kendrick, he formed the directing duo, The Little Homies, masterminds behind the cinematic, symbolic videos that set Kendrick apart from everyone else. By 2019, Dave Free left TDE to co-found PG Lang with Kendrick, a multilingual platform blending music, film, and art. But in 2024, their bond was dragged into Kendrick's feud with Drake. Drake tried to stir chaos by suggesting Dave secretly fathered one of Kendrick's kids. Instead of clapping back with a statement, the duo answered with art. Dave appeared in the Not Like Us video, which closed with the words, directed by Dave Free and Kendrick Lamar. Their message was loud. This brotherhood is unshakable. From a sock-covered mic to running one of hip-hop's most creative empires. Beyond the executives and headlines, Kendrick's inner circle runs even deeper. These are the day ones who keep him grounded when he goes home. Take Mingo and Turtle. In a Rolling Stone profile, Kendrick pulled up to Tam's Burgers and they were right there waiting. Mingo, a Compton-born giant with a gentle presence, is so big Kendrick calls him his bodyguard. Turtle's another fixture, part of the neighborhood fabric that keeps that home connection alive. Then there's Matt Jeezy. Unlike others, his bond with Kendrick wasn't built on gang life. They met at McNair Elementary. Two kids who loved basketball more than banging. Being unaffiliated got them picked on, but instead of breaking, that shared struggle made them tighter. Their friendship became armor. Proof loyalty doesn't have to come from colors or codes. Fans now call it the myth of the good kid, and that Kendrick somehow escaped the streets untouched. But the truth? His survival was anything but luck. So many kids around Kendrick ended up dead or locked up. But unlike most of his homies, he had something rare in Compton, a solid home. A father who stayed present, steering him the right way, and a mother who never fell into addiction, even as it destroyed families all around. That foundation gave him stability, but it didn't mean he stayed out of trouble.
It's crazy because I always go back to the story that I was probably the only one in America probably with an actual active father in his life. I don't know. Well, at least in Compton. What they didn't have, what I had was somebody to say, all right, you bumped your head, now you see what happened? You in back of a police car. See what happened? You at the station. Nobody was telling them that. So they'll keep doing it over and over again.
As a teen, Kendrick rolled with his circle and did the same things they did. Smoking, drinking, fights, even petty crime that sometimes turned serious. He clashed with rival neighborhoods, and for a stretch, he was even banging the set. The stories told in Good Kid MAAD City weren't fiction. They were his real life.
Sing About Me is definitely a true song. My partner talking to me, speaking on the story how I was there, when his brother passed, and I got to watch him take his last breath, respecting I was down for his brother no matter how much they called him a delinquent. And if I happen to pass before your album drop, I want you to tell this story. Sing about me. Make sure you sing about me. And he definitely passed.
At 15, he got stomped out by a group of dudes, and that wasn't the only time. In Compton, getting jumped was almost a rite of passage. One of the wildest stories came from his childhood friend Antonio, also known as Cannon. He and Kendrick were once outnumbered 2-4 when a crew ran up on them. Cannon got cracked in the back of the head, but instead of folding, adrenaline took over. Shockingly, they fought back and dropped all four. Cannon later said it wasn't about bravado, it was survival.
We were walking to the swap meet to get some t-shirts or whatever, and these dudes were like, hey, where you from? And I just walked out. Kendrick was walking with me. And then I just felt knuckles go, bah! It hit me in the back of the head. Kendrick was like, hey! And he fighting with like two dudes. I don't know what came over us. We turned into like wild Tasmania devils or something. He was able to beat up 4 dudes with just 2 of us, and we both short. It was the adrenaline that just had us like, y'all not about to just pick on us and beat us up. Like, nah, that's not happening.
Moments like that taught Kendrick 2 truths. He could survive in that environment, but survival always came with a cost. The weight of those consequences hit hardest when he tried convincing his best friend Little L to hit the studio instead of the streets. L refused, saying he had work to handle. Hours later, he was arrested. Kendrick realized if he hadn't been in that studio, he'd have been right there with him. Same charges, same fate. That moment with Little L was a fork in the road, the kind that split destinies. But Kendrick wasn't immune. In a 2011 interview, he admitted he almost ended up in prison himself. He'd been arrested, clashed with police, and for a while he was caught in the same cycle as everyone else. To this day, he avoids sharing too much of those stories, knowing how people glorify street life.
From Compton, I could have easily came out and said, I did this, I did that. I done killed a whole bunch of niggas. I done just giving off fact. But that ain't me. I'd rather talk about my reality. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather talk about something a little bit more deeper than that. The reasons and the problem and the solutions behind it.
Instead, he's focused on transforming that pain into purpose. Kendrick became a voice of change, showing a different path while still wrestling with the darkness inside. That side of him leaks into his music. Temptation, guilt, violence. His partner Dave Free once called it Kendrick's shadow self. In a 2022 interview, Dave said, "There were moments when Kendrick the poet would disappear and out came the defensive Kendrick. The one ready to get active if it meant protecting himself or his family. A reminder that no matter how far he's come, that side never vanished." But Kendrick made a choice. He rose above, even when so many of his friends never got that chance. Some died, some went to prison. Some never escaped the cycle. That's why he refuses to romanticize the streets. He's seen firsthand what they take away. For Kendrick, success isn't about erasing the past. It's about honoring it. Every time he uplifts someone from his neighborhood, every time he gives his people a way out, he's fulfilling a mission. Because he knows he was lucky. Parents who loved him, a gift that gave him an exit, and the awareness to use it. And for those who didn't make it, he's determined to make sure the ones still here have a shot. So now I want to know what you think. Is Kendrick's rise proof that environment doesn't always define destiny? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you on the next one.